All right, hello everyone. My name is Zane DeGraw, and like Larissa mentioned, I'm in our Meriden Applicare plant in Connecticut. So a little bit about myself. I'm from Marshall, Michigan, which if you're looking at Michigan on your hand, it's about right here. Some of my hobbies include cooking, reading, fish keeping, and traveling. You can see a couple of my fish tanks there, my beta, Craig. Marshall's a real quiet small town, so it's a nice place to grow up. I'm currently going to school at Michigan State University, about an hour north of Marshall. I'm studying chemical engineering, and I'm doing a minor in beverage science and technology, which is a lot of winemaking and beer brewing and distilling. I'm set to graduate in May 2019, as long as nothing happens. I try and get involved on campus, so I'm a member of Omega Chi Epsilon, which is our Chemical Engineering Honor Society. It's a national group. We have a chapter at MSU. I'm also a member of the Honors College there at MSU, and I try and get involved with a lot of the AICHE meetings as much as I can. So a little bit about Applicare. Like I mentioned, it's in Meriden, Connecticut. We actually have two plants. The other one is in Pritchard, West Virginia. We're a pharmaceutical company that we produce a lot of topical ointments and skin antiseptics like iodine swabs and alcohol prep pads that are used a lot of times in surgeries, or if you've ever gone to the doctors and got a shot or a vaccination, you know, they'll wipe the alcohol wipe on you before they give you the shot to prevent infection. So that's what we do there. We're very heavily regulated. In addition to all the groups like OSHA that work on safety, we're monitored by the federal or the Food and Drug Administration, as well as the Department of Homeland Security because of the chemicals we use on site. And I'll speak more about that in a little bit. I think I pressed the wrong button. We're good, we're back. Sorry about that. So my team is engineering at Applicare, and we report into our plant manager, Terry Swindle. Engineering has three parts to it. Engineering, which is what I'm part of. We do a lot of day-to-day support of maintenance and project work there at the plant. We do our own larger project work, as well as helping on the more large-scale corporate projects like Checkered Flag, which I'll speak about again later. We work a lot with our external contractors and lots of stuff like that, upkeep around the plant. Next is facilities, and they also help with upkeep. They work to make sure we're meeting all of our environmental, safety, and security standards, and they do a lot of the general upkeep of the plant, like cleaning all of our GMP, that's good manufacturing practices, all those areas in the pharmaceutical world. And then we have IT on site, and he does a lot of server backups, and he also assists with our cyber and facility security. So some of the projects I've worked on at Applicare, I'll speak about these first three in more detail in the next slides, but worked on our heat chamber requalification project, the Checkered Flag program like I mentioned, as well as an automated pump purge and sanitization system. Some of the smaller ones I've worked on have been our conversion to stainless steel drums. We currently ship flammable liquid in plastic 50-gallon drums, and it was identified as a safety risk because we keep it on the production floor, and if there were ever a fire to happen, there would be nothing to contain that, and we do keep a lot of it out there. So we're working to convert it into these stainless steel drums, and so it's been a lot of moving pieces between the Meriden facility and the Pritchard plant, and doing stability studies and trying to get all those pieces to fit together. I also worked on our Homeland Security, like I mentioned, our site security plan. There was a lot of training and audits involved with that. Got to work with some people from corporate at Clorox, as well as some contractors from security companies to make sure our plant was following the code and we could continue to operate. I worked on a tour video with the FDLPD, Ivana Perez, who's also at Applicare, that we put together for some of the executives here at Clorox to showcase our plant and tell everyone what we do there. And then finally, I worked on a pallet tracking project when I first got to Applicare, following some pallets through our plant to kind of get a feel for how Applicare works, as well as figure out some better order frequencies and quantities. And it fed into a larger CAPA happening at Applicare, which a CAPA is a corrective action, preventative action that we were doing about how we stored our pallets and where we were keeping them. So those are what I've worked on. So more detail on the heat chamber requalification. It all was part of our transition from sterile to non-sterile labeling on our products. Previously, we had no documentation supporting our process of heat processing. It was at that point sterilization, and we had no documentation that we could show to any sort of external auditing group that said, here's our process and we prove that it does it. So this was a huge step to get it down on paper if we're ever audited that says, this is what we say it does and here's the proof that shows that it does. So we executed the process qualification on our 7 chambers there in site, and it involved loading sensors, their K-validators, into our chambers along with our pallets of product and biological indicators to track the log reduction of that. And then we put together 7 of these binders. They're all 3.5, 4-inch binders, about 600 or 700 pages each that we put together. So we're talking thousands of pages here that we put together. And it was preparation for the next project I'll speak about, getting our new heat chambers. So Checkered Flag is a corporate project that's happening at Applicare. And there are 4 parts to it. We have NASCAR, Indy, Moto, and Formula One. You can sense the theme here, we like racing. So Project NASCAR is getting these new heat chambers. They're very nice. As you saw on the last slide, our current ones are made out of shipping containers, like cargo storage containers that you see a lot. So these are much nicer. They're purpose-built ovens that we're really excited to have them. So what I did, I worked with my team to tape the layout of the floor. We worked with the contractors when they installed it. It came in on 5 separate semi-trucks, these big, huge 5 sections of it. We worked with the contractors to get it installed into the plant correctly and working weekends to oversee that. And then we did a pre-startup safety review on it to make sure we addressed all the safety concerns around it before we hand it off to the plant for their use. So we know it's safe to use. Next is Indy, and I worked a lot on Indy, probably the most out of the 4 of Checkered Flag. So this is the construction of 4 environmentally controlled rooms in our production space. You can see on the bottom of the screen there, that was the before picture. So when I got to Applicare in January, that's what was behind our containment wall there. It's just a big, huge empty space with movement in it. And the other picture you see there is what it was about, or where it was at about on Thursday or Friday of last week. So it's come quite a ways, and we're still continuing to work on it. They're putting in the ceiling, I believe, soon. They're working on the flooring. Indy also encompasses upgrading our current production spaces. We're doing new flooring, new air handling units in those spaces, as well as a new airlock that was built before I got there, but I also participated in the PSSR for that as well. And so for Indy, a lot of it was I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to get to work to let the contractors in at 6, get them signed in, go over all the safety documentation with them so that we're following all of our Clorox and Applicare procedures. We coordinated meetings with all the different construction people. We have mechanical groups doing our air handling units, ventilation, we have flooring, we have construction people, and so constantly people coming through the building that we have to coordinate all those moving pieces. Formula One is, we're getting 2 brand new high-speed machines from Germany, and we're really excited about those. I unfortunately won't get to see them. They're supposed to get in September and later in the year, so I unfortunately will miss that. But they're going to be housed, as you can see there, in 2 of the new environmentally controlled rooms. They're giant machines. So part of what I've been working on is we have to do machine relocations, because currently where you see all of the conveyors, actually this has a laser pointer on it, all these conveyor pieces right there, there's machines there. So we've got about 10 of our production machines in that space, and they all have to get moved. And so there's a lot of moving pieces of coordinating with production and scheduling at the plant to figure out when can we take those machines out of use for a few weeks so we can move them around the plant, and then they have to be revalidated, and so there's a lot of moving pieces like that. I also work to develop the SKU rates and raw material usage for these 2 machines so we can determine how much material do we need for them, every hour, every shift, as well as figure out staffing for those. I didn't say it. The other one is Moto, which I did not personally work on, but just to mention it, it's qualifying a new supplier of raw material. The other project that has been my personal one that I've worked on during my time is the automated pump priming and sanitization system. So currently at our plant, when we change liquids between, say, alcohol and iodine, they have to flush the lines of the machine and on the pumps. And so this involves our operator, Myra's been working with me. She has to get out her stepladder, climb up it, stand, reach over the guardian, and press the button for the pump 85 times when she does this. Right, yeah, I see your reaction. So every time she has to change liquid, she stands up there and she presses it 85 times. So it takes a good while to do it. And so this system was come up with in 2014, and they installed it in 2015, but it never got validated. And so in our plant, before we can use it, it has to be validated, and that's kind of what I was mentioning with our heat chamber requalification. You have to have documentation that proves that it says what you're telling, what you say it does. And so that's what I'm working on now. So first, I wrote a validation plan, which basically is an overall summary of everything we're going to do to prove it works. After that, we do our risk analysis, which basically we go through the process of both when we're using it full-time and when we're validating it to identify any risks that can happen. So we really keep safety in the front of our mind and figure out a way to counteract or completely eliminate, mitigate any of those safety issues before we begin the work so we can stay safe at Clorox. After that, we do an installation qualification, which basically is making sure, everything's plugged in. Is the timer that's there actually on the machine before we can actually say it works? Because that's pretty important to make sure it's there. After that, which we're doing right now, is the operational qualification, and that's where we actually test it to make sure it does what we're saying it does. And so what that entails, and I apologize profusely to Myra when she's doing it, because to prove that it works, we have to manually purge the pump 3 times. So she's got to press that button 85 times, 3 times in a row. So I apologize when we started. She knew it was coming, but she's been a great sport about it. So we're doing that, and then after that, we can set the counter on it, and it takes about 2 minutes to go through and cycle the pump. So it's a huge time saving that lets our operators go do something else. So that's where we're at right now in it. After the operational qualification, once it, if it passes, knock on wood, then we can turn it over to the plant so that our operators like Myra don't have to press that button 85 times every time we switch products. So, like I mentioned, I love to travel, and it's great living in New England because it's so tiny compared to Michigan. Everything is so close together that I've been able to go to Boston and Harvard. I explored Newport, Rhode Island, a very historic town. Some mansions that they call their summer homes. Entire rooms that are bigger than my whole apartment. I got to explore New Haven in Connecticut, where I live. Yale University is there. I went to the Mark Twain house with my brother in Hartford, about an hour north of my apartment. And then just this past weekend on my drive down here, I explored Richmond, Virginia. A little fun story is that tower you see right there is the Bunker Hill Memorial in Boston. And so you actually can climb it. It's really cool. When you get to the top, you get to see, it's a great view of the whole city. There are about 300 steps that I climbed in my safety shoes. So I was definitely winded by the top, took a nice 10-minute break up at the top. Enjoyed the sights while I was dying. But it was really, it was a really cool experience. I got to drive home in a snowstorm to visit my family, surprise them with a visit home. It's been great, getting to see all this. Some learnings at my time here at Applicare and Clorox. I got to try validation engineering on a couple of my projects, and I found I really like it. It's a really technical aspect of the engineering world, and it's something I kind of really enjoyed, so I want to pursue that in the future. Also project management, like I mentioned, the stainless steel conversion. It's been lots of coordinating between our plant as well as the Pritchard plant, and phone calls every week trying to get all the moving pieces to line up. Some technical skills. I use Excel all the time to do all sorts of things at work. I got to play around with SolidWorks and do a lot of 2D and 3D modeling, which is really cool as an engineer. Chemical engineers don't get to do that as much as like mechanical engineers, so that was a fun experience. I used iMovie to make a movie, our tour video. And then communications, and it's incredible how much we communicate here at work. I've done public speaking at work as well as training employees on all sorts of different things. And then the networking opportunities are incredible. We constantly at Applicare have people coming through our building, whether they're from corporate out in California, or if they're here in Kennesaw or Alpharetta. We had people from Canada, and then there's constantly contractors coming through our building. So I've met a lot of great people. And I want to say thank you to everyone here at Clorox. Everyone I've worked with has been so incredibly nice and friendly and welcoming, and they've taught me a lot. Everyone at Applicare, I want to give a special thank you to Ivana Perez. She's been a great mentor to me at my time at Applicare, and there are just too many people to list, so I want to thank everyone. And thank you for having me here today to present. If anyone has any questions.
What was the
When I first got there, it's a pharmaceutical company, so when little things happen, it's a big deal, you know. Someone will talk about, oh, something, you know, a machine, we missed a spot on the machine. I'm like, oh, okay, go clean the machine again. And people freak out because this is a product that is going to be used on surgery or something. So there's little things have a huge impact. And it took me a little while to realize that, you know, figuring out why it was such a huge deal there.
Is this your first internship?
Yes, it is. It's been a great experience. I've gotten to do a lot of things, a great taste of a lot of different things in my time there.
Compared to what you're learning in the classroom, how does it, is it what you thought you'd be doing?
Not at all. It's very different. I'm thankful for that, don't get me wrong. It's been very different. You know, you learn a lot in the classroom, and like Jordan mentioned earlier, you know, in the class you have to get the right answer every time. You do learn, like, you don't have to get the perfect answer. It has to work, so it's been a good experience.
Jordan, was this your first as well?
It was. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm curious as you guys present, if it's your first or if you've worked at other places. I was just kind of interested in hearing what's different about expectations or how this experience compares to that.
Any others? All right, thank you.